The Lions were looking to take a step forward tonight against the Waratahs, arguably perhaps a step back on a scruffy night all round for both sets of supporters in Sydney. Welcome to the Quick Tap on the Good, the Bad and the Rugby. I'm Graham Simmons, joined once again by Jonathan Davies. Foxy, you're looking gorgeous in black. Is that because of what happened in Japan earlier on today, or is it you just plucked that out of the wardrobe?
Well, I'd be
anyway?
wearing black a lot these days if that was the case. No, I just gone with this black attire today. But no, tough day this morning watching some of that rugby. I gotta say, started early on with Wales. We're not going to go into that, but look, I think talking about the Lions today, they would have been hugely disappointed. I think we all expected them to go up a notch again today, up another level, and to be fair to the Waratahs, they weren't just a shrub. They were like a prickly nettle, But no, it was it was a clunky game. Loads of set piece, and it wasn't their best performance. Let's put it that way on tour.
That's being very polite, isn't it? I will not mention Japan again in the whole podcast, I promise you. I will, though, mention our friends and sponsors, Continental Tyres, the official tyre partner of England Rugby. Whether on the rugby field or on the road, you can trust Continental Tyres for exceptional safety, performance and grip. And if you're joining us on YouTube, all the usual reminders about the like button and the notification bell for the Good, the Bad and the Rugby channel. They are all at your disposal. The comments page is still sagging a little bit from Thursday's QT and your reaction to Owen Farrell, but do feel free to pitch in. There should still be some room on there somewhere. Foxy, you get to the end of the game and the team that's lost looks happier than the team that's won. Tells you something, doesn't it?
It does, and it's one of them where I think the Lions will look back with a sigh of relief, because at times, they just weren't really clinical at all. The discipline, like giving the Waratahs, easy outs of their own, territory where you should be looking to put opposition under pressure. And, I just felt that they were almost trying too hard at times. It's the style they play in with the pod off the 10, looking to play an extra pass in. It feels like they're putting themselves under pressure, where, the Lions should have huge physical dominance in these games, and they should almost use that more. I think the times when Lions look the best, when they've had the quickest ball, is when Alex Mitchell was running, fours around the corner, Tuipulotu, Hugh Jones to the line, gain line. It's a simple game, rugby. It's
bread and butter stuff there, Foxy, isn't it?
I think
That's
so,
really
and it's
bread and butter stuff.
Andy Farrell said the pitch was wet, wet ball. Obviously, you just simplify it and just back your ability. You're one of the best squads formed from the Northern Hemisphere. Go out there and show them why you're simply the best rugby players.
I think what surprised me, Foxy, to some extent, watching the whole game, was just it didn't look to be a very intelligent performance from the Lions. Certainly in terms of their game management in the first half, just not playing the ball in front of them, not getting over the gain line, not taking account of what you just said there, with the greasy ball and so on and so forth. And then there's the ruck. This what on earth is going on at the ruck in terms of their contact work. We know when we came into this game, the Waratahs were only ranked 8th, I think it was, Super Rugby Pacific. But one thing we knew about the Waratahs coming into this game was they're the best team over the ball, I think, statistically, in Super Rugby Pacific. And to then having gone into a game like that against a team who you knew damn well were going to be really tough at the ruck and the breakdown, and resource it as poorly and as frequently poorly as the Lions did, wasn't very smart.
I think what's been good at the start of the tour is the ball movement off the forwards, changing the point of contact, was giving them that momentum, so makes clearing the ruck far easier. But tonight it was, might have been the wet ball, not able to move the ball as much. It starts with the carrier. Was he winning the contact, and was he falling forward? And if he wasn't, then that brings into the threats of the Waratahs Jacklers. And Gamble tonight was just incredible over the ball. I think 5 turnover penalties, constantly working. It might be good timing from a Lions point of view, of highlighting a real area of where they need to improve on. Like, this is to win a test series, you've got to be able to keep ball and exert pressure. And tonight they just were giving the Waratahs, when Gamble got over the ball, relieve pressure, deep breath, and clear their lines. You can't give teams those opportunities at the highest level.
You've played obviously on this tour 12 years ago in nighttime games as well, Foxy. I mean, talk to us about this greasy ball. I mean, if you're playing at sort of 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock in the evening down there, Wayne Smith at New Zealand used to call it whispering death with that kind of,
Well,
which I thought
Michael
was a
Holding.
very, very lyrical. Yeah, exactly. I think he got his cricket
I'd
and his
rather
rugby mixed
I'd
up,
rather play
but
in Australia than face Michael Holding. Let me tell
I
you.
think he probably would. But just tell us what it is. I mean, does the ball get very greasy when you get to evening time and the dew's starting to fall on, gather on the pitch?
It does in certain areas, like Brisbane, especially. The first test it will be really humid, and that will be that'll come into play. But it's you know playing in Wales, you're used to a wet ball, so it's not. I don't see it as a
This is why we need more Welshmen on the tour, obviously. Yeah.
and that's we're clinging by our fingernails if that's what we're going for. But no, I think it for me it's that accuracy point. If it is a wet ball, you just give yourself a little bit more
Hmm.
time. I think we
Hmm.
saw a lot of the Lions forwards taking the ball, being stood upright, which means they're being pressured and don't have much time. They're trying to create themselves more time on the ball. Where ideally we want them leaning forward in a more powerful position to win that contact area. So I think, if the ball is a bit greasy and you're not going to be as sharp with your handling skills, just give yourself an extra yard, which will make a huge
Yeah.
difference in those body angles, in those collisions, and then that will, inevitably give quicker ball and just recycle it. And sometimes you don't need to put those extra passes in. It might just take an extra couple of phases, going the same way, just to outwork teams. It's like I said, it's a simple game, and you just need time with the ball. And I just felt that they were almost trying to score too quickly tonight, where
Hmm.
they weren't just backing their rugby abilities. Where like I said, they're a far better squad, and they should be winning much more easily than they did tonight. But sometimes pressure is a brilliant thing, and how people are talking about the test teams. Boys will be thinking about it as well. So it pressure does things to you that you're not used to, and it obviously showed tonight in some cases.
Yeah, I mean, Faz said after the final whistle, Andy Farrell, to say that we left some points out there would be an understatement. We've carped a bit here, and we may even carp a bit more later on, but how about some positives? Aside from the set piece, where Scott Cummings ruled the line out, and the front row absolutely cracked the Waratahs apart in the scrum, anything else beyond that really stood out for you, and you thought, yep, that's a good plus, I like that?
I did really like Hugh Jones. He looked really dynamic. He looked hungry and physical with the ball. Great footwork before contact for his second try, I think it was.
Yeah, it was lovely.
And he seems to be growing with confidence the more he's playing. I don't think he's had much rugby leading into the tour, so it's great to see that he's getting better and better as the tour go on. And like we talked about, you want to be tracking in the right direction towards the test, and he seems to be definitely one of a group of players that seem to be in a good place. Some of the kicking game from the back three, they're finding grass.
Yeah, yeah.
Putting pressure on the Waratahs. That was a positive. Like you said, the set piece. And I think, defensively, Waratahs didn't seem to be going to do much all night. So I think, although they're going to be tested greater on this tour, it was, just to keep them out in phase, that they seem to be pushing them back, winning that game line battle. And that's where you want to see, as I'm sure as a defense coach, is like, boys going to meet them, winning that contact and knocking them back. So I think there are a few positives. Other players, I thought Mitchell grew into the game. Alex Mitchell grew into the game. He seemed to,
His
yeah,
third quarter was very influential, wasn't it?
yes, exactly. He really found his feet. I think again. I think there was a bit of pressure on the halfbacks after the halfbacks played in midweek, how they played. So it's an amazing thing how, like, it's a chain reaction of things, of events that might be leading to better performance, worse performances than they expect. So no, it was that you can take at the end of the day, it's about the test series. And as long as the Lions coaching staff, when they look back at this game, see where areas they need to improve on, and work on that and make sure that, come 2 weeks today that they're not in their game. So, it's almost like you want to know that your weaknesses. You don't want it to be too easy. So it's it's how you spin it really, and I'm sure there'll be harsh words said after it, but they'll be able to hopefully manipulate it to improve their all-round game.
I'm going to be provocative here just for a second. Is that all right? Is that allowed on a podcast to be provocative? I'm not sure it is.
Haskell's on a podcast, so
Let's give it a go. Well, James Haskell does it occasionally, so yeah. Here we are. This is just a devil's advocate question, okay? Those people out there who are in the Owen Farrell camp who love the guy, and there are a fair few of them, they'll look at that game tonight in terms of how it was run, game management, smarts, and they'll say, that's why the Lions need Owen Farrell. Would they be right?
Potentially, yeah. It's like I mentioned the experience piece is massive, and um, you know, everyone said it was like lack of control at times, and it's Test rugby. The pictures really move quickly, and when you start your career, you're like a rabbit in the headlights. But the more and more you're exposed to that level, the pictures start to slow down, and you seem to have more time. And no one's done it more than Owen Farrell. I'm not saying that it would have been 50 points if Owen was playing tonight, but
No.
I think that's
And I'm not saying this myself, Foxy. I just want to say, before people go mad on the comment section, yeah, I'm just saying this is what the Farrell supporters will say having watched that game.
And this is what I think I tried to say on Thursday or Wednesday when we did it. It's one of those where there is a benefit to having him in camp, and he needs to hopefully gets an opportunity to showcase that, and just he'll want to prove those doubters massively. And it's you can't have enough experience, I don't think. And it's yeah, I don't know what I've been saying the last 2 minutes about on that topic, but it makes sense, the call now when you look at games like that, scrappy games. Who do you want in? A real battler, and there's no one better than that. I don't know, Owen Farrell.
How should we look at it at this stage of the tour, Foxy? I mean, game 4, it's not quite like that thing in majors golf where you get to day 3 as moving day. And, game 4 maybe is kind of one of the key games of the tour, potentially. Should we be expecting more from the Lions? Are they learning quickly enough? Or should we look at that game and say, well, hang on, Simmons. Keenan had his first hit out. Kinghorn had his first hit out. Ben White had his first time on the bench. Scott Cummings had his first chance to really put down a stake in the ground and did it pretty well. We're still in the early days. I know it's ridiculous to say that, or seems ridiculous to say that, given we're so close to the test, but we're actually still early days. Are we still early days, or should we have expected the Lions to be a lot cuter and better tonight than they were 4 games in?
Well, still this, two full 80s before the first test, so there's still a lot of opportunity. But I would have liked to have seen more tonight. Like just on the accuracy, just a simple, the basics of the game. To be these top class teams, the world class teams, are brilliant at the basics. They don't make errors. They play in the right positions, and they put the opposition under pressure. And I just didn't see that tonight. And I think, if you're all about winning test series, that has to be your bread and butter. And I would say at times through the first few games, they've been at that level that they need to, but it's been too many, easy letouts for the oppositions. They've been able to relieve pressure quite quickly. So I would say at the moment, Lions aren't quite where they'd like to be. Like, I think if I was in that camp, I think you, as a group, you would almost want to be able to put more down. Like there's a lot of players that
And
play.
how would you fix that, Foxy? I'm going to make you head coach right now. Jonathan Davies, he's now the head coach of the British and Irish Lions. How are you going to fix that in the next week?
I would just, like I said, emphasize the simplistic view of, using, the Lions have a huge physical advantage. So use that to your benefit. You don't have to be cute if you've got big men like McCarthy, Atoje, big Jack Conan, Tuipulotu, Aki. Get them over the gain line. get the likes of Alex Genge on the ball. You've got nines that are great runners. Use them to get the forwards running off. I've seen at times where, Marrow has been running off Gibson Park looking for offloads, winning collisions. Just repeat that. Try and get repeat sets of positive outcomes, and then build pressure on the opposition. You want to suffocate them, like defensively. That desperation in terms of getting off the line. Marrow showing it well, getting off the line, getting intercept. They clear the lines. Hugh Jones scores from charge down a couple of phases later. Like those extra efforts really add up as you go through a tour. So my view would just to be break it down really simply and just play in the right areas and just like outwork it. It sounds really boring, but this team want to win a test series, and the time they have together isn't probably enough to get a full flowing attacking system. So you're limited. So you're going to have intricacies with moves and set plays, definitely, in but a style of play. You try and make it as basic as you can. I like how they're trying to go across three forwards to a back, because it's getting a one-on-one and it's getting a good bit of momentum. I think that's great. Carry on doing that. But I think sometimes those extra passes, how the forwards are being rushed because they're upright, is just putting the players out the backs, under a bit more pressure because it's allowing the defensive to come up. I think it might be worth sometimes just hitting the forwards up. Defensive line has to come up, then reset again. It's very hard defensively to reset quickly all the time, and it's hard work.
It
So
is.
over like 40, 50, 60 minutes in a game, that then creates more time and space when you have the opportunity to play then.
Looking at just the style of the way the Lions are playing, and you're kind of reiterating, Foxy, the very good points you made on Thursday about, a more redacted game plan, a simpler game plan, a more nuts and bolts game plan would probably suit the Lions better. Do you think Joe Schmidt will watch that game tonight and watch the way the Lions have played so far and say, yeah, bring it on, keep playing like that? Keep playing like that, because that feeds right into what we want to do. And what would really scare Joe Schmidt a little bit more, not scare him, but concern him, would be if they started to do a little bit more walking, not running, or trying to walk before they run, as you were indicating earlier.
Yeah, and I think, the Argentina game was, I think, a great example of how probably Australia will want to play like Argentina. Capitalize off mistakes, be clinical with the ball, and Australia are very comfortable moving the ball. So, from an unstructured point of view, that's what Australia want. The Lions, the hardest point of defending is off turnover. You really have to work hard to get the opposition to a position where you're comfortable to go after them again with line speed. So it's for me, it's cutting out the errors would be the main focus for the Lions. Joe Schmidt probably wants them to play a bit helter-skelter, a few like loads of handling errors tonight. And you saw a couple of times Waratahs players were coming through and nearly kicking on, 5-7 points that way. It's like it's a 14-point swing almost. So it's something that as a group they really have to look at it and try and bring that error count down. I think I'm not saying about, I don't know whether you meant walking, not running, in terms of like the style of play, but I still think they need to have that intensity.
Yeah, no, I was talking in terms of, I think you could make the argument here that the Lions are trying to do too much too quickly.
Yeah, they've gone to level 10 instead of doing exactly.
Precisely.
And I think it's great that they have ambition to get to level 10.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
But I think break it down to make it like, if you're the bully in the playground, you could just stick to your strengths. You gotta use your physicality. And I don't know if that's a great analogy or not, but like,
no, but I know what you mean.
It's a tough.
Play to your obvious strengths and your obvious areas of advantage.
Exactly. And tonight's set piece was a walk-in 50-meter territory gain almost. And it's. Don't be ashamed of that. I remember when I played with Wales, and Adam Jones was winning us penalty after penalty, and it was 3, 6, 9 points. It was well, if you can't beat it, it's your problem, not
Yeah.
ours. And essentially then that creates pressure on the opposition. That's when they make mistakes. They're trying to force it. So, it for me, it's just backing up those positive sets.
Yeah. A frustrating night for Ellis Genge, certainly, who scored twice and then found out that he hadn't scored twice, which for a loose-head prop will be very upsetting. But it is now time to have to look at a few other guys, and time for the total package delivered by DHL, Foxy, the official logistics partner of the British and Irish Lions every week. We look at the players who stepped up and delivered when it mattered most. Your call, obviously, but can I just chuck a few names at you and you can have a juggle?
Yeah.
I thought it was a good night for Scotland. I know we shouldn't think about the British and Irish Lions as anything other than the British and Irish Lions. But I thought Scott Cummings needed a big game today and absolutely delivered, certainly at the line out and elsewhere around the park. I thought his work rate was outstanding. I thought Pierce Schumann, given who he was up against, Mr. Tupou today, the amount of damage he wreaked in that area, I thought was impressive. And again, thought was good around the park. Hugh Jones, obviously. I mean, you're a 13, so you're bound to give Hugh Jones a good licking, aren't you? Blair Kinghorn, I thought, started off his tour pretty well. Nothing outstanding, but didn't make any obvious errors and looked sharp. Mitchell, we've talked about in the third quarter, and I'm not sure if we're allowed to give it to Charlie Gamble for the Waratahs, but sheesh, he was good over the ball. Enough from me. Over to you, Foxy.
Yeah, a special mention to Gamble. Charlie Gamble was, fantastic, and he just to be able to see his opportunities. Yeah, I thought Kinghorn was good. You could just tell he's just playing with a huge amount of confidence. Simple things where Van der Fleer came around the outside and he was able to just put that pass easy.
It was a lovely ball.
He just seemed to be like he's operating a good level at the moment. And I think him having game time at 15 is today is a big show of where I think he'd be test 15. Like you said, Scott Cummings worked hard. The line out was great. But for me, like Hugh Jones was just
Oh, here we go.
you called it. That's it. But someone who scores 2 tries and he's still hungry, looking for a third, but almost being a great link as well. You saw the times where the ball's over the top. He has a good feel for the game at the moment. He's running some great lines off ball players, but also he's trying to link up his back three, because obviously as a 13 you're surrounded by great athletes, so you're trying to facilitate them, get them on the ball as much as you can. I thought his link play was really good as well as his strike running, and defensively he was sound. So for me, giving it to a 13, I think he was the DHL player there for sure.
Yeah, well, it is all about teamwork, speed, and precision for DHL, working behind the scenes so the Lions can fire on game day. And Hugh Jones, you are the DHL total package. Well done to you. Brumbies, who are the best of the Australian franchises in the Super Rugby Pacific. We talked about this slightly last Thursday, Foxy, about which kind of team does Farrell go with here for Wednesday in Canberra. Who would you like to see? What would you like to see? I mean, obviously, in sense of cut out the errors and play with a bit more gumption is the obvious thing. But who would you like to see? Where? What does he need to find out in terms of individuals in this game in selection?
So after our conversation on Thursday, I went away to think about that 10-day gap, the game on the Saturday before in that invitational team, and I think I'd like to see test team against the Brumbies. I think it's after the disappointment of the game today. Yes, they got the result. Almost be ballsy, show your hand. They go, right, this is us. We're coming down. We're going to beat your best team convincingly, and almost put a marker down. I think that's what I want to see.
Right, who do you want to see do it, Foxy?
So I would go Loosehead. I'm not going to do a full 15.
No. Just give us a rough idea of combinations and names.
I'd like to go with Toje McCarthy, Conan 8, Jack Morgan, and who do I want a 6? Potentially I might go Ches on a 6. Just go big. And And then we know the halfbacks.
Aki Ringrose?
Yeah, give them a shot. The other two gave a great account themselves. And yeah, back three, Low, Kinghorn again, if he's all right, pulled up all right, and Freeman.
Tommy Freeman.
That's what I want to see. Like, back yourself, have that confidence. Yeah, we weren't where we wanted to be on Saturday, but this is us, and we're here to beat up and put a marker down for the rest of the tour.
Okay, so that's what you would like to see happen. Do you think Andy Farrell will do it?
I think so. I think I wouldn't say he's a gambler, but I think he has confidence. Like he will put confidence in this. He always puts confidence into you as a player, and I think if he did that, it would be done in a way that it did bring that squad back together in terms of take all doubt, let's go out and show us what we're about. Almost double down and go for it.
You've obviously played under Andy Farrell when he was the defensive coach on this very tour 12 years ago, JD. And, I guess most of us have seen or heard the Hurt Locker speech. What does he like to play for as a coach? What does he demand from your experience? Any little moments from that tour of working under El Farrellissimo as to what it is that defines him and why he might be feeling a bit worked up this evening over the lack of accuracy and perhaps attitude and smarts?
I think as you know where you stand with him, and the standards he sets in what he wants. There's always clarity, and I know I mentioned it gives you confidence, and the way he delivers it. It's that speech, I'll always remember it, and it was just you're ready to play at that moment, and it's sometimes people say, "Oh, it's too soon," but he drip feeds it through the week, and it comes Saturday, then I'm sure boys are good to go. And it's for me, I think he's just extremely smart emotionally and technically and tactically. He just has a great feel for it all around, and he'll know what's best for the group. And I think the group will, as a group of players, you just trust him. And once you have the play group trust, then you're on to a winner. You're the leader then, and he's definitely. You can see there is a bit of frustration in the interview post game, but I think it's
his body language is interesting. I always used to stand there in those kind of situations with a microphone, and it was never actually what somebody would say, but it was always their body language that would give them away. And instinctively when a coach is happy with what his team has done, and when a coach is feeling really uncomfortable, and the body language spoke volumes.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I want to almost see him to go, right, bugger it, like this is us. Have it.
Foxy, thank you as always for your time. It's been great catching up with you. Great talking to you.
I loved it.
I did keep my promise, and I didn't mention Japan for the rest of the podcast. Although I just realised I now just have mentioned Japan, and I do apologise for that. Good luck to your other team in red, and I hope they can sort themselves out next week. But good luck to you. Lovely to have you along, and thanks very much for your time and insight.
Thank you.
And thank you as always to our sponsors, Continental Tyres, the official tyre partner to England Rugby. Remember, if you're looking for an award-winning tyre that can keep up with your every move, look no further than Continental Tyres. Thanks to all of you out there as well for tuning in. QT will be back on Thursday to review the Brumbies game and look ahead to the Anzacs with, I think, James Haskell, whoever he is, demoted to the QT Dirt Trackers.
You won't have to say much, huh?
It'll be a quiet night. I'll just sort of set the microphone running and go and have a lie down. And if you do enjoy a word salad, do have a look at rugbyplus.substack.com. The more so if you suffer from insomnia. But in the meantime, thanks for your company. Foxy, be well. Take care, all of you. Thanks for tuning in.